Hi everybody, it's Coach Debbie. How are you? Welcome to week 8, which is crazy to say. How are things going? And I really want to know, how are things going with you? How do you feel like you would rate your nutrition if I happen to walk into your house unexpected? Would you kind of be like, wait a minute, don't look at this. If we are going to be wanting these actual results to come, it's going to take some work. That's just the reality of it, that we're going to have ultra tight nutrition, which is why our whole program began with nutrition. If we're trying to skirt around this really big rock in our menopausal years, we are going to be extremely frustrated. If we're trying to kind of bandage up some of those little problems, we're not actually going to have this decade or two of actual thriving. So make sure that you're prioritizing all the vegetables and the proteins and being really careful about how you're timing your carbs. You cannot have carbs the way that you did in your 20s and 30s, and that's just the reality. And that's especially relevant today as we focus on estrogen, because as we go through perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, our bodies are simply not going to let us get as many carbs into our system unless you want this unwelcome weight gain, which I'm pretty sure that you don't. So we're going to have to limit that, because what your estrogen levels are basically doing. So here you are in your younger years. I'm so sorry that we're all just aging, and that's just reality. So in our younger years, we're kind of like doing good. We're doing good with our estrogen levels, and then we start to get that perimenopausal dip, and then it just goes down, which was really hard to explain in your email, by the way. I just wanted to point my finger and draw this. So estrogen levels are here, and then they start decreasing as we're in perimenopause, then we're going through menopause, and it just stays really low. It started up here, and then once we're in those menopause years, it's down here. So it just is like, whoop, and done. And so you're like, wait, no, I want that estrogen to come up, because the estrogen is going to prevent us from having all these temperature changes, like the hot flashes and freaking night sweats, and honestly, potentially messing up our sex lives, right? I mean, we're having this vaginal atrophy, this vaginal dryness, this painful sex, which there are some simple remedies that you can do with different creams and oils. The answer is not just, well, get more estrogen in your system. Go see the doctor and get more estrogen. Really, you just need to have the right ratio of estrogen to progesterone. And we're going to be talking next week about the progesterone. So it's not just about like boosting up. It's just not that easy. And we have to think about relationships. So these two hormones of estrogen and progesterone definitely play off of each other, and they kind of need each other to go hand in hand to really function well. But because our estrogen levels are low, I'm looking at my notes because I loved what I read just a minute ago as I was going back through the email that I sent you. Because our bodies are like, oh, carbs make us store fat, which wasn't always the case in our 20s and 30s. Because that's the case, we're going to limit the starchy carbs. I cannot say that enough. So yeah, we're like, man, I hate the night sweats and the hot flashes. I get that. But keep in mind, you're helping your body if you're limiting those carbs to just one meal a day. And we talked a lot about getting our HEC in check, those hunger, energy, craving levels in check. We're still not going to ever be like, oh, and now I have carbs 3 times a day. That is really not likely. I'm so sorry. Not if you want to be trim and have optimal health, not with the estrogen. Now, estrogen is not everything. Nutrition is the big player here. I cannot stress it enough, because we so desperately wish that something would be more important, that exercise would be more important, that getting our hormones balanced would be more important. And they're all really important things, but they're not everything. So let me ask you some more questions. Speaking of exercise, how is that going? Based on your level, have you found a sweet spot, or are you progressing with exercise and with movement? How many walks are you going for each week? How many minutes are you exercising each week? I went through a phase where I started exercising. Instead of my typical 20-minute sessions, I did boost that up to about 30 minutes a session. I was exhausted. It put me over the edge. Now, some of it was because my body had not built up the endurance to do 30 minutes. And I'm not saying 30 minutes is bad, but for me, it really affected my adrenal system and my cortisol levels. And I was like, this is not a good idea. My body was like, girl, no, it's a no. Whereas walking would not have had that impact, right? I also am questioning, how is your self-care? And maybe walking and exercise are part of that self-care, but what are you doing to intentionally? I talk to so many women because I do one-on-one coaching where we're doing phone calls every week for 30 minutes. And these women, I'm like, let's all practice de-stressing so that we can recharge. And this is not an indulgence. This is not something that's a privilege. It's something that we should be doing regularly, hopefully every day. It doesn't have to be extravagant. You don't have to go get a 90-minute massage at the spa. It can be very simply just reading a book on the back porch, right? So I want to make sure that you're absolutely doing that and that you're still playing detective with hunger, energy, and cravings. Now that you know how to tweak this for your body, your individual needs, and no one else's, because it's probably very different than your favorite girlfriend, how are you adjusting and monitoring it and being accurate? You know, taking your measurements and saying, how is my hunger today? How has it been this week? What about my energy? What's my energy like today? What's it been like for the past 7 days? Are my cravings the same? Are they up and down? Are they getting pretty level? Or have I forgotten I even had cravings? What does that look like? And remember, each step of that PDF is telling you how to go 2 weeks at a time so that you can have the most energy and the fewest cravings and reduced hunger as possible. So enjoy reading your email all about estrogen, all of its functions, and then kind of how it can make us feel dysfunctional. Blah. And we're going to have more hormone education on the way. I do think it's important because as we move from week to week, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, as we progress, then we can start talking about even more specific solutions for you as we're in our 40s, 50s, and beyond. So thanks for joining me for 8 minutes. I'm so proud of you for doing this. Keep making yourself a priority, and I'll see you next time. Okay, and go put on Facebook. Keep letting us know hunger, energy, cravings. How are those going? Okay? All right, bye.